ready to take your feminine dominance skills to the next level? Do you want to learn to dominate safely, creatively, and confidently? Are you looking for information on how to encourage growth, learning, and discipline? Or maybe you want to learn how to really submit in a woman-led dynamic. You're wondering how to find the right dominant partner for you. How can you learn and train to please her the best way possible? In this live, I'll speak from my perspective as a woman leading my relationship for nearly a decade, as a woman living a life beyond what I'd ever dreamed, with a partner I can barely believe is real. I'm glad you're visiting my world. Welcome to FLR, FemDom, and Women in Charge, presented by Dating Kinky and Curiouser.life. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another early morning Wednesday. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Heather, also known as Nookie or Miss Nookie if you prefer an honorific. I am a hedonistic, dominant, cuckoldress pimptress who is polyamorous and monoromantic. I live a woman in charge life with my partner of nearly 10 years. It's full of love, sex, passion, adventure, and exploration. I write books, I teach workshops, and I offer coaching for better love, sex, romance, kink, power exchange for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. I've had a bit of a frog in my throat over the past day or so please bear with me. It's a fantasy, right? Being forced to succumb to the greater power of a dominant, unable to help yourself, being overwhelmed. It is practically spoon-fed to us as a culture. In romance novels, in action-adventure movies, in bad kink smut books and porn, it's not real. And not only is it not real, it's an actively harmful and insidious idea that permeates so much of the kink we attempt and ruins our relationships with expectations and covert contracts. Hello, Subby SAB. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me this morning. Today, I'm going to share a look at another way. It's not the only way, of course, but it's my way. Now, let me be clear. My philosophy in life and love and kink and power exchange is that when it comes to any kind of relationship, kinky or otherwise, what works for one person or couple may not be what works for another. So I'm a big fan of do what works. Now, let me say that again. Do what works. This is one of my main mantras in life, as well as in my relationships. Take what works for you from this series and leave the rest. Or use what you learn to expand your understanding of what works for others and how to communicate with them. But please don't ever think that I'm telling you what to do. I'm just giving you information to figure all of that out for you and your partners. After all, I am a dominant, but I am not your dominant. And please don't forget to comment or ask your questions in chat. I love engaging and I keep an eye on the scroll at all times. So, when it comes to women in charge relationships, what we are taught is how we tend to enact right? When we get into a relationship, the assumptions and the ideas that we bring into that relationship that we have been taught through socialization, through fantasies, through books, through porn, whatever, will affect and change our relationships. So for the masculine folk, the idea is often if you want to submit, right, it has to be to someone who has proven themselves in battle, right? They must win a war of strength in 6-inch heels, full leather or latex shapewear, and carrying a whip or a crop, right? Their power is in the size of their strap-on and their disregard for your humanity. Caring, love, pleasure, silliness? Who needs it? This is serious business here. Don't question, just do as I say. You are the worm brought down from your lofty perch to grovel before me. Yeah. Now, I admit, I'm not very good at all of that. I find it ridiculous. But I think you get the point. And then for the femme folks, if you want to submit, it must be because you were unable to resist the trappings of dominance. Your personal boundaries, safety concerns, and silly womanish thoughts simply dissolve with the crush of a stronger personality. Even as you hold firm, they are worn away from assault after assault of love, dominance, and aggression, all intermixed and mingled in exact proportions, whatever those are, because you'll know it when you feel it. Anyone else see the problem here? Bueller. I do have a strong personality. And I also have high heels and latex and a whip and a crop. And I'm not afraid to use them. I just don't feel like those are what make me a dominant worth serving. Yeah. Fear, even fantasy fear, is not enough for me. I need more, much more. And before I tell you what more I and many others like me need, please don't forget to like this video and share it wherever you find me. It's a huge help for me to have people recommend me to their friends and groups or pages or social media online. So thanks so much to those of you who have been doing that. I really, really do appreciate it. So fear, even fantasy fear is not enough for me. In fact, it's a deal breaker for me. It's unaligned with who I am as a person. Now, that's not to say that some people don't love fear. Heck, I mean, some people relish it, cultivate it, at least in scene. That's not for me. It's also not wrong. However, even those people who I know personally, like in person and have interacted with, who love fear, also have healthy, thriving relationships in kink and out of it. And they know there is much more than fear or aggression or pushing boundaries to make dominance work. Someone grabbing and holding me tight while I struggle to get away, kissing me and stoking the flames on my womanly desire, is not a dominant. It's a consent violation, right? It's not the moment I realize that they have mastered my heart. Here's an example. You ever been in an argument where temperatures and emotions were running high and you wanted to get out, to clear your head, to walk away, to think quietly for a bit, but your partner wouldn't let you? They stood in your way. They blocked the door. Maybe they grabbed you, hugged you against your will, trying to hold you there, touched you, dragged you, even, and yes, I have had this happen, fallen to the ground and clutched at your ankles uber dramatically. I've been on both sides of this. When I was younger and still steeped in, I have to save love, I have to fight for it, like the ways that pop culture promotes, I did that. Yeah. Subby, SAB, doesn't consent come into play? Plain fear would mean something else. I'm not sure I understand the question. If you could rephrase that. Consent does come into play. And fear does mean something other than consent for sure. I personally find that you can have consensual fear-based relationships. Some people seek these out. Not for me, one way or another, right? There are quite a people I know, in person, like in my local community, who actually enjoy and cultivate fear in their scenes, which is lovely to watch. It is beautiful. It is moving. Again, that's not something that I look for. I think the key, though, is the idea that a lot of people have coming into women in charge relationships, especially masculine folks coming into women in charge relationships, those who have been socialized to be men or to be masculine, somehow often come in saying, well, I am interested in submitting, but she has to prove it. She has to prove that she's stronger than I am. She has to prove that she's more dominant than I am. Creating a fear type of, or an overpowering type of dynamic in which it's a constant battle. And I'm simply saying that when women like myself are approached with that idea, 95, 98% of the dominant women I know will say, why would I want to take on a submissive who is going to force me to work harder for them when my desire for a submissive is to have somebody who works well and meshes well with me and makes my life better and easier, right? So there's nothing wrong with fear if it's consensual. I personally don't base a power dynamic on fear or on enforcing things, right? But again, so the whole idea of you're in a conversation, right? And somebody tries to force you to stay there, to have that conversation, to stay with them or whatever, is often, again, popularized in popular culture, right? And for me, I learned that somehow. I don't know. I never saw my parents doing it. It was probably movies or whatever. It was a hard habit to break, to not try to force someone to talk with me on my terms in my timeline. But having experienced it from the other side hastened the cure, because it is absolutely not romantic or sexy or dominant or whatever. For those of you watching, this is the true dominant of the household here. There we go. Got her settled on my lap. So I will admit, sometimes when my partner and I are arguing, my submissive partner, and things get a bit heated, I will grab a pillow. We have hardwood floors. So I will grab a pillow, put it on the floor, and have him kneel before me. Now he knows as soon as I go for that pillow, what's about to happen. We have a protocol for these types of things. And so I'm standing above him with him kneeling on the pillow, looking up at me in the middle of, our argument. And I do this to emphasize the choices that we each make in our relationship. Right? And sure, he is sometimes reluctant, but it's always his choice. And he can always stand back up, or for what it's worth, simply choose that our dynamic not continue. And thankfully, that has never happened. Right? But the idea is, when we are arguing, if I see things taking a turn that I don't feel is productive, I have the power in our relationship, and I have his consent to take over and move things along in a different way. So sometimes what will happen is we'll be arguing, and for whatever reason, he's being super stubborn, or he's being cranky, or we are not engaging in a way that I feel is loving and respectful to either of us, right? So I'll put that pillow down and I will snap and point. And after he's kneeled, I might be looking down at him and I'll say, "Pet," and he'll say, "Yes." And I'll say, "What do you call me?" And he'll say, "My queen." And I'll say, "And why do you call me my queen?" And he will say, remember, we're in the middle of an argument, so he's being kind of testy. "Because you earned it." Yes, I did. And I'm earning it right now. I am ending this conversation. We're putting it on the back burner for 24 hours, 48 hours, 36 hours, whatever I think. And sometime in the next period of time, I would like you to send me an email detailing your perspective on this, your position, your side of the story, whatever. Like, I want to know how you think and feel, and we will revisit this in 3 days. It gives us time to calm down, right? It gives us time to assess our thoughts. It allows him, who I am the more verbal of the two of us. I can, as you can see, I can talk up a storm. He tends to need to think about what he needs to say. So it gives him the time to think about what he needs to say and to craft an email with the words, right? So that it's presented to me without huge emotion, and I can see everything that he has to say, and I can think about it and then get back to him and ask a few more questions or apply a decision, right? Again, this is all consensual. It is something that we've built over the years that allows us to de-escalate if something starts to get out of hand. Now, luckily, we don't need to do this very often. We have, over time, discovered how to engage with each other in ways that never or rarely, 1, maybe 3 times a year max, lead to conflict. But when we do have that conflict and it's not going well, we have this option, right? Quick question. Are you getting value from this live? I hope so. Did you know that I've recently started coaching individuals and couples? So if you'd like to spend some direct time with me, supercharging your relationships, power exchange, women in charge, or even just romantic relationships with a custom plan based on your personal needs, you can find me at coachnookie.curiouser.life. That's https://coachnookie.curiouser.life. Of course, you are always, every single one of you, welcome to join me for these free live events or to join one of my membership options or workshops. It's just that some of you want more and feel like you will thrive with personal accountability, and you asked for it, so I'm offering it. Now, let's get back to the idea of inspired versus enforced kink. Now, I will admit, because I'm human, that when my partner is being difficult with me and we're arguing the fantasy of telling him to agree with me is tempting, right? In fact, I went out on a date with this guy. Oh gosh, this must have been 5 or 6 years ago. And we were talking about something, and he had these ideas of dominance that were just plain bizarre and off the wall. He fancied himself quite the young dominant. And I don't remember what it was he said, but he was talking about issues with a partner of his. And I mentioned, oh yeah, every once in a while, my partner does this, that, and the other thing. And he said, well, you're his dominant. You can just tell him to stop. Oh, I was like, oh, my sweet summer child. That's not how humans work. Although it would be lovely to think that in an actual, dynamic between two people who live together and who spend their lives together, that every once in a while I could just say, you know what? You need to shut up. You're wrong. But that's not how I do. And honestly, even in the most strict relationships I know in real life, that is not how humanity works. It's just not, because the issue is still there. And this fantasy of telling my partner to agree with me is why I titled the book I wrote on communication, Understand Me Now. And that's an order, which is, for what it's worth, available with Dating Kinky Plus membership, the monthly membership there, and you get that book too. Subby SAB says, I wish there was a universal redressal like your dynamics. So It's something, though, that you can choose to negotiate, right? In your dynamics. When you get into a dynamic with somebody, that's something that you can choose to negotiate. As a friend of mine, though, used to say, she was a dominant woman, be careful what you wish for, because once you negotiate that, then that's something you need to actually follow, even when you don't really want to, right? Even when you're feeling cranky and upset and unheard. Hello, Mike. Welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning. So, on the flip side, when I'm feeling particularly cranky and Pet wants to cheer me up, the fantasy of him grabbing and holding me tight, kissing me and stroking the flames on my womanly desire and calming my struggling is kind of hot. Well, really hot, actually. I mean, I'll even add in wrestling. Like, I'll be overtaken and lose and pleasured until I can't be cranky anymore. Right? Romance novels definitely, did a number on me. I still like those every once in a while. It's fun, right? It's fun in my head. In real life, though, no. Because I demand partners who respect me and my boundaries and who thrive on maintaining their own. Fear and force are not the reality of a power exchange relationship, DS, MS. And yet those are the tropes we are suckled on. Those and many more, right? They make dominance and submission a battle of victor and vanquished, strong and weak, rather than a collaboration of two powerful people. And yes, I am saying here that the submissive is also powerful. A powerful human who chooses to serve. Two powerful people coming together to create more in their lives through their dynamic differences. I reject the idea of fear and force. I prefer to inspire submission, right? I'm going to tell you about that. Real quick before I move on, I would also like to tell you about our Plus membership. You can find it at getplus.datingkinky.com. If you love this content and you want more education on love, sex, romance, kink, and of course, FLR, FemDom, and women in charge dynamics, there is no better offer for you than Plus. Join our Plus membership and you'll not only get the book I've already mentioned, Understand Me Now, and that's in order. You'll get access to other books that I've written, like FLR, FemDom, and Women in Charge, and Because I Said So, a collection of sexy, thoughtful, and loving women in charge writings, parts 1 and 2. You'll get over 40 hours of amazing women in charge presentations taught by confident, dominant women from around the world, like financial freedom to ultimate sexual freedom, a discussion of women-centric non-monogamy, practical chastity for people with penises, creating contracts for MS or DS relationships, red flag submissives, and more. For only $9.99 a month, you will get access to all of that and over 300 hours of additional content on power exchange, relationships, dating, communication, rope, navigating the kink scene, mental health in kink, and so much more. And if you're not ready, although this is the best thing you can do for your kinky life, I am absolutely convinced of it. If you're not yet ready, don't forget, please, to like, love, or subscribe wherever you're finding me so you don't miss a single live. Jorge, welcome. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. Can you growl at the place? I'm not sure I understand that. Is there a typo in there somewhere? If you could ask it again, I'd be happy to answer if I can. Mike says, inspiring submission, very sexy. Fear and force are not sustainable. That is absolutely my belief. Fear and force are fun for scenes, not for a life that you're building together. And that is, to me, one of the biggest challenges when people approach me as a dominant woman, or people even interact with me as a dominant woman, is they interact with me as a powerful force to be feared rather than as a human. They cast me into a role that I have no desire to fulfill, which ends up essentially objectifying and fetishizing me instead of treating me like a human that can then play that role and enjoy that role and embody that role in our engagements, right? I mean, really, when it comes right down to it, when someone offers themselves to me, I want them to be clear-eyed and sober, unimpaired by alcohol or drugs, or some sort of like weird sexual frenzy that they've whipped themselves into through imaginings or, with my whip on their backside, right? I want to know that they've thought it through, right? And they know who I am. They believe I'm the best choice, not simply the one who scares them the most or might beat them the hardest, but the one that they can devote themselves to, can trust, and cannot imagine being anything other than mine, whether I'm in flip-flops or knee-high leather boots. I want my partners to want to serve me, even if it means getting up early in the morning to drive me somewhere or to come to a live. Not just when it means staying up late for, tied up anal invasions. I want them to want to do things for me because it will put a smile on my face, not because they need to feel forced into it, to feel like they can deny that they want those twisted sexual perversions, but instead beg for them and collaborate with me on them. And I have a whole rant on the whole idea of being forced to do something rather than, wholeheartedly asking for it. Forced by is a pet peeve of mine. I need to know that my partners submit because they believe my leadership will make their life better than it has ever been before, not because they can't function without me beating them to get things done. And if this sounds to you a lot like adulting with all of that thinking and stuff, and not like the pornos or romances you've cut your teeth on, like no stalking you to learn what you want and to manipulate you, no crushing you until you're overwhelmed with my strength, no stroking your goody bits and withholding your pleasure to make you give into my demands, except in like playful fun, because like that's all the fun stuff and it comes later. If this all sounds a bit like living an adult life and interacting with people like almost like they are human and actual people instead of like kinky, powerful femdoms, then you have got it. Maybe that doesn't sound super exciting to you, but I'll tell you what, it is. Hello, Sabyasachi. Oh, never a worry on being late. Do you have any questions about what we've covered so far today? If so, pop them into the chat if you're with me live, or into the comments if you're watching the replay. The long and the short of it is, I don't do enforced submission. I just said, I need to know that they submit because they believe my leadership will make their life better than it ever has been before, not because they can't function without me beating them to get things done. This is key. And it goes back to the live I did about service on March 8th. And that is still up on this channel. You could watch it if you missed it. However, keep in mind, it is about to come down and go into our private section for our Plus members and our FLR Women in Charge members. But on March 8th, I did a live about service. And I said, if you are given the honor of performing a service, do it to the best of your ability, as quickly as possible or on time, and communicate success and or any delays or challenges. Because the best part of service is not having to think about the act getting done. It's knowing that it will get done. You got that? If I have to monitor and enforce every little thing, then the woman in charge relationship is not doing what I personally want. I want a woman in charge relationship to make my life better and easier, more passionate, more adventurous, not to give me another person to observe and audit their actions to make sure every little thing gets done. And if it doesn't, then also to plan and carry out punishments of a sort that will make clear my displeasure and get them back on track, but also that will not feed into their pleasure centers and kinks. So they learn that doing the wrong things will get them punishment. And so they do that more. Yuck. Any of you. Now, y'all might be thinking, but a punishment dynamic sounds so hot. I get it. I get it. I do. But any of you who think that, think about any management you've done or team leadership you've done and what it meant to you when somebody doesn't do something that they have said that they're going to do or that they've been assigned. And Think about how stressful that is, right? Trying to micromanage all these different pieces instead of simply being able to say, hey, could you do this for me? They say yes, and then it gets done, right? You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. Mike says, you are making perfect sense. Thank you. Permissive submission requires a level of self-honesty by the submissive. They cannot deny that they are submissive and pretend they are being forced. It's a much deeper level of relationship, in my opinion. Yeah, or in my humble opinion. Mike, I agree. It is, I would say it's not even a deeper level of relationship. It is, and this is something I talk about a lot, understanding who you are as a person and being authentic, so that you and whichever partner or partners you choose to engage in power dynamics or relationships or sexy times or whatever with can create the best collaboration for you both. Right? I talk about this in Kink and in, my more vanilla work. And that is the idea of the sweet spot in relationships, where imagine a Venn diagram, right? A Venn diagram is like, the MasterCard logo. You've got two circles overlapping each other. So, this circle is what I want, right? And this circle is what you want in a relationship. And this overlap in the center, that is the sweet spot. That is what we negotiate to create the best combination of our lives together. And the challenge with a lot of relationships is a lot of people don't negotiate, right? They don't even really talk to each other. They just make assumptions as we go along. Again, I mentioned this earlier, covert contracts, right? And I've done several lives and writings on covert contracts. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend it. It's something that a lot of people get stuck in all sorts of relationships. And B, a lot of people do not actually know themselves. And so, or they do know themselves and they're not able to express or feel comfortable sharing who themselves are in the relationship. And therefore the negotiation is not authentic and real. And that cripples the potential relationship that you're negotiating, right? So it's not even like, to me, it's not even a deeper level of relationship. It's knowing who you are and having the boundaries in place for you to be able to express who you are and be authentic about who you are in your relationships. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, you know that I'm running a boundaries workshop, takenoshit.curiouser.life. And we'll be running a new group. It's an at your own pace workshop, but we're going to be running a group session on April 3rd. And for those of you who also choose to join our Plus membership, you can request access to the Take No Shit workshop and the boundaries book that I'm writing as well. So the Plus membership is a super valuable option at $9.99 a month, whereas the boundaries workshop is $47 on its own as a standalone. So Mike says the Venn diagram example is very clarifying. Thank you. You're very welcome. I talk about this a lot. I did a workshop last December about building and negotiating relationships for the sweet spot, and that is in the Plus membership library. So if that's something that you definitely like to learn more about, I highly recommend the Plus membership. Again, that's at getplus, GETPLUS.datingkinky.com. So again, I don't like micromanagement. I don't like the idea of, assigning somebody a task and wondering whether it's going to get done. I don't partner with adult humans in order to treat them like recalcitrant children. So I don't have a punishment dynamic in my relationship for this reason. Now, again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I am saying, though, that there are other ways to do this, and a lot of women dominant women are not willing to take on that kind of dynamic for these reasons, right? As hot as it is, there are ways to enjoy that expression of a dynamic without making the relationship required, forced, or enforced, right? Mike says the pretend, fear, and forced relationships are rife for exploitative behaviors by both the dom and the sub. Ding! And it's a pain in the ass, right? Like the idea that I have to create a list and then double check that the list got done and then double check, what sort of punishments have been totted up and so on and so forth is a pain in the ass, right? We've got life to live. We're supposed to be filling each other up. So I don't have a punishment dynamic. What I did is I chose the most amazing human I have ever met, right? And I trust him to be dag-blamed awesome. And he is. And when things don't go right, I simply tell him, hey, this thing, I asked you to get it done. It hasn't gotten done. And I'm wondering what we can do to fix it, right? And then we fix it. And once in a while, we have punishment scenes where I punish him in the kinky, fun, sexy ways that we both enjoy for things that are entirely frivolous, right? Or even made up, because I can. So here's something fun. I'm going to give you an example of the punishment. So my partner and I, let's say we get into a row about something. I don't even know what it is. And we figure it out and we work it out, right? And everything is forgiven. Now, we both enjoy punishment dynamics. It's fun for us, punishment. However, again, as adults engaging together, I'm not looking for a full-time child. He's not looking to be treated like a child full-time, right? He's a man. He's an amazing man. And that's a big part of our relationship dynamic. However, there's also, in a punishment dynamic, there is a sort of release, a catharsis after tension, right? You did something wrong, you get punished. Feeling the physical punishment is a release, right? You feel like you are forgiven, right? So a week or two later, I might say, we're going to have a scene tonight. And at 6:15 on the dot, I would like you to be in our bedroom, kneeling on a pillow on the floor, naked with your collar on. And ready to serve, right? And at that point, I will probably have a little list of things that I have, put together. It is like an aftercare for a fight. Yeah. And they might be things I've completely made up, right? Or they might be things like we were at dinner the other night, you disagreed with me in front of our friends, right? When we had that argument 2 weeks ago, and I put the pillow down on the ground, you seemed reluctant. You didn't move quickly enough to get onto the pillow, right? And I will list these things out. And then we will have a scene that includes punishment activities that will take him to the intensity of feeling that he wants to feel in order for that tension and catharsis, that catharsis of tension, the tension to release and catharsis to happen, right? It's the best of both worlds, right? I inspire him on a daily basis. And I know this because he tells me so. And I know this because I ask him, hey, sweetie, do I tell you I love you often enough? Yes. Thank you, my queen. Hey, sweetie, are you still happy that you let me into your mind? I've never been happier, my queen. And so on and so forth, right? And sometimes it's silly and it's cheeky and whatever. This is our call and response. These are, you think about when you're doing a scene, you think about check-ins. How's this going? How's this feel? Da-da-da-da. This is our lifetime call and response. We are constantly on a daily basis, more often than daily, on different topics. Hey, how do you feel about this? Hey, how do you feel about that? Have you missed me? I've missed you. Da 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 da. Back and forth, constant communication. Right? I know I inspire him. I know I make his life better. I know he loves being mine. And on a daily basis, even when things aren't super kinky, right? Like he's not here kneeling at my feet right now, naked, just waiting on me until he needs to get ready for work, right? He's upstairs, sitting in bed. He washed my hair this morning because I'm still, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the middle of a double mastectomy and reconstruction. I have just been cleared to start actually building strength back because I have full range of motion, but lifting and shampooing all of this hair, this is a lot of hair, requires his strong hands. So he got out of bed this morning, shampooed my hair for me, and he's now sitting in bed watching probably bike packing videos on YouTube before work, right? Like this is life together. And even when it's not super kinky, our life together includes our, Sabyasachi saying communication. Yes, our communication, our call and response. Our, how is this working? This is working amazing, right? This is going well. I love the way that this is happening. This could be changed. I didn't really like this, or I feel like I need some more help with these goals. I haven't been reaching them in the way I wanted to, and so on and so forth, right? Every single moment of every single day, we are 24/7, but I don't walk around the house in like a tight leather corset and, 6-inch heels 24/7. I am this. And who I am as a leader, as a human, and as a partner inspires him. I don't have to enforce that. And yet we can play with enforcement. We can dabble in fear. We can do sexy, fun, kinky things together and dive into and explore those things without trying to make those hard and fast roles that we have to embody on a day-to-day basis. Mike says, "You look amazing." Thank you. Thank you. I'm not through all of the surgeries yet, but I had physical therapy on Monday, and my physical therapist said in her 10 years that she doesn't remember the last time she had somebody walk in after 6 weeks, 6 weeks after a double mastectomy, and be as comfortable in their own skin and be as have the full range of motion and the things that I had. So we worked on a couple of places where I'm tight, and we started talking about what I need to do to get back to where I was as far as strength goes and beyond. But I still have a ways to go. I still need to finish being filled up, which is kind of weird, but yes, I need to finish being filled up. And then we're going to need to plan the exchange of the temporary fill zones for actual implants. So thank you. Mike Strong said backpacking videos. He's a great guy, guaranteed. He is a great guy. And in this case, it is not backpacking, although he has watched those in the past. In this case, it is bikepacking, bicycling. He is planning some bikepacking adventures this year on his mountain bike. And so he's figuring all of that out. And I can look at his bike right now from here, and it's all packed up, and he's taking it out for a spin to make sure like he can ride it that way and whatever. So yeah. Sabyasachi says the punishment. Yeah, it's fun. In fact, once I remember I even recorded one of his punishments. This was back in the days of Tumblr porn. I recorded one of his punishments and I posted it up on Tumblr, and people got to listen to me punishing him just because it was hilarious. Sabyasachi says, "Wishing you all the best, Miss Nookie, with your help. Hope everything goes well and smooth." It has so far, and thank you. I'm really amazed. I think it's a combination of me following the directions that my surgical team has given me and having an amazing surgical team. They have been just stellar. Mike says, "From deep within." Yes. And amazing bikepacking. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And once he gets that in place, I might in a year or two decide to join him bikepacking. We're talking about maybe getting me an e-mountain bike for him, for me to keep up with him, because he does road racing and stuff like that. There is no way I will ever keep up with him just on my own. So anyway, again, the key here is for me and for many, many women, I would say the vast majority of dominant women out there are not going to want to create an atmosphere of force or fear in their relationships with a submissive. They want a partnership, a collaborative partnership where you both work to get your needs met. And that might include enforcement and fear and so on and so forth. But when you lead with that, you're going to lose out, right? You're not going to make those connections because life needs more than force or fear to get you through it. And I like to say in my more vanilla relationship discussions that a successful relationship is two people getting far more out of it than they put in. And if you come at me as a dominant woman, if you come at me making your submission sound like more work for me, why would I take that offer? Right? People like to listen to their favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? Right? And I'm telling you what's in it for you. if you can build that life, my partner has said that the life that we have is beyond his fantasies. Not that we live his fantasies every day, but that what we have created has allowed him to experience more of his fantasies and more of life than anything else he ever experienced. And if all you want is one fantasy fulfilled or whatever, you want something to happen exactly this way and you don't necessarily want to get deep into the humanity of it all, contract with a pro-dom or a sex worker. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying do it. There is nothing wrong with that. But if what you are actually looking for is a relationship, a long-term, live this way life, then yeah, you're going to need to engage as a human and look for inspiration from your partner and provide inspiration to your partner as well. And that's what I've got for you today. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you love this, if you loved this discussion, please like and share it with others who would enjoy it. This will be live on this channel for another 7 to 10 days, and then my team will hopefully be taking it down and putting it into the Plus member archive. So again, that's getplus.datingkinky.com. $10 a month, really, definitely a good deal. And if you don't follow or subscribe wherever you're finding me, please do, right? So you don't miss out on upcoming lives. Now, speaking of upcoming lives, let me see, where's my chart here? That is not my chart. Let's see, what have I got? Goodness gracious, where did I put that? I know it's here somewhere. Forget. This is insane. I don't know where my thing is. So let me just put it up here. There we go. Nookie Live Topics. Here we go. So coming up today at noon Eastern time, US, I am going to be talking about fantasies with the Dating Kinky Book Club, episode 4. Thursday at 2 p.m., I'll be discussing Lucky in Love, how being a selfish shit brought me more love, passion, and romance than I ever dreamed. On Thursday at 3 p.m., the Take No Shit Workshop Weekly, which is usually a private event for our Take No Shit people. It'll be private this week, is Opposites Attract, Empaths and Others. So the idea that empathetic people have a tendency to attract not so nice people, and why that works and how to build better boundaries around that. Friday at 10 a.m., I'll be talking about absolutes are the worst, communicating in relationships. And then Monday at 10 a.m., Lucky in Love, win or fail spectacularly. Tuesday at noon, does your empathy trap you? So that'll be sort of a reprise of what I'm doing in the Take No Shit workshop, but not quite as in depth. And then next Wednesday at 7 a.m., same bad time, same bad channel, I will be talking about I hurt you because I love you. So that's what we've got coming up. Hopefully, I will see some of you at future lives. Sabyasachi, always a pleasure. Mike says, I see people bike pack around Lake Superior in the summer. Yeah, fun times. So thank you all.